Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Retirement Readiness Podcast. As always, Tim Regan, the founder and wealth partner at Prairie View Wealth Partners, and I'm Katie Umland.
Hey, Katie.
Hi, nice to see you.
Good to see you again.
I hope you guys are excited to see
We are. Yeah, it's funny. Being brother and sister, you'd think we'd see each other quite often, but I think we have to schedule these recordings just to catch up, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about cognitive health in retirement. And so right before we started this, I said that does mean like brain health, right? Like cognitive function, I guess. So you can be on the, I guess, so now maybe I need cognitive health. I can't even say what we're going to talk about today. As a mom, I think that is
a little brain drain going on a little bit. Yeah.
So today we're talking about cognitive health.
Yeah, which is like, I don't know, a fancy way about how to keep your marbles, maybe,
Yeah,
right?
right.
It's so funny because we have that conversation frequently, and it's on both ends of the spectrum where as people are getting ready for retirement, they're thinking about how am I going to stay engaged and how am I going to mentally be plugged in because I'm so used to being at work and so used to having those conversations. And, as you mentioned, being a mom, you kind of know what that's like too, right?
I'm sitting here thinking, well, if I didn't have it before retirement, is that something I'll get back in retirement?
Yeah. How about it?
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling the brain drain, but it's use it or lose it.
It is totally. Well, and I think that people kind of think about cognitive health and kind of cognitive decline as something that is almost like a predisposed destiny, if you will. Like this is what happens as you get older. But what we've seen and what we've experienced is it doesn't have to be. It really there are things that you can do, and I'm not a scientist, or a doctor, so I don't. But things that we've witnessed in clients, as well as things that we've read, that really say that it doesn't have to be, this slow decline as you hit retirement.
So is like the best thing you can do is like play those like mind games on your phone?
Yeah,
Like
I think Grace, she's my youngest. I think she would say, totally Candy Crush, and which she told us she was quite proud. We're going through with her. We're going through the whole college, like where you can go to school type of research now. It's like, well, just I'm in the top 10% in Candy Crush, and so we're like, okay,
put that on your resume.
So I don't know if she's thinking like the whole like top 10% of my class, like if that, but yeah. So no, I don't
top
think
10 in something.
That's right. Well, I think she's top 10 in our kids at least.
In your 4 kids.
4 kids, yeah, that's right. And so as we look at that though, while that's kind of something you can think, well, everybody's looking at their phones all the time type of stuff. But really, some of those things do actually help keep the connections inside of your mind. And it's funny when you think about, you say use it or lose it. Much of what happens in your brain is these connections, these neurons that make these connections. And the more frequently those pathways fire, the more second nature things become. And so I think back to when we were in grade school, and you and I both went to, that good parochial Christian education, and you had your memory work every day or every week. And so I think about right now, I could probably recite many of those verses.
Well, once like those first 3 words get said, and then it's like automatic.
Yeah,
it just
it's there.
Comes out.
It's there.
Well, that's funny you said that because that's one reason that I've been like, I don't know if my brain is mom brain or if it's something more. If I just have so much on my brain, I'll at night, I'm saying prayers with the kids, and I'm the only one saying them. They're too little to say them right now, and I'll forget the words to the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah,
in the middle of the Lord's Prayer.
Yep.
And it's just like gone.
Yeah.
It's like how many times have we said the Lord's Prayer? I mean, I know the words.
Yeah.
And they're just gone, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think with a lot of that, and that almost goes to when we talk about cognitive function, we're seeing today, you're talking about like with the games and the phones and that stuff, you're seeing what they now call deep work or focused work kind of going by the wayside. People's attention spans are so short. And there's nothing scientific to back this up. This is the world according to Tim Regan currently. But when we talk about kind of those neural pathways, you're talking about neurons in your brain that are connecting and exchanging information. And the more times that it exchanges that information, the more rote it becomes. Like
Mhm.
that's just how it is. So which is really good because then it's always there. It's bad because sometimes that's what gets you in a rut
Yeah.
and you can't kind of change that mindset. But I almost wonder because same things can happen to me. But a lot of times it's not that I forgot, it's that my brain like squirrel, and
Right.
like, and so it's like, is it really that I just don't have the
The pathways
presence,
or
the to really kind of stay on that
Mhm.
track, and all of a sudden I've got this off ramp in my brain that takes me to a different place.
Yeah, and, even obviously, like, we spend a lot of times on our phone, but it is true that those there are some, like, real games
Yeah,
to play on your phone, and just being on a smart device when you're older,
staying
staying
current,
current
staying
with
yeah,
what you're using, or good old fashioned paper
yeah.
Sudoku. Um,
Well, and it's funny because there are just like I don't know, there's a lot of conversation now about our education system and kind of this post-industrialized nation. Do we really need to be training all of our kids to go off and work in factories or work
mhm,
in like these specific jobs and that kind of stuff? But I think there's something to the concept around multiple ways that you learn and
mhm.
multiple ways that your brain stays sharp and some of that is even the kids picking on you in the playground.
Yeah,
Like you learn pretty quick, oh, I guess I don't do that.
right.
That type of stuff. And so I think that when you talk about it, even as people age, you need to have multiple inputs, like you said. Yes, the paper, sudoku, or however you say that
I know
word,
I
I guess.
cannot say that word.
Well, now you got me saying it right. Or me goofing it up. Or if it's being on some sort of a device, or if it's going and playing bunco with your friends, or if it's all of those things are
Or
stimulating
mentoring the younger generation in some way,
1,000%.
I think is and it you wind up learning from them
Yeah,
too.
it's a two-way street,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, and so I think that when you start thinking about some of that cognitive stuff, I think there's a lot of science right now around what can you do from a chemical perspective,
Mhm.
and what are some supplements that you can take that helps to ward off some of the decline that you see, and a lot of it has to do with lifestyle. A lot of it has to
Yep.
do with uh,
Your
same stuff.
inputs.
Yeah, move more, eat less,
Yeah.
eat quality, that kinda stuff, but there's also those things that you're talking about that aren't that it
Mhm.
also just takes sit down and maybe put a puzzle together, which causes your brain to work in a different way than
And I think even, like, forcing yourself kinda out of your comfort zone or your fishbowl, like
yeah,
you talk about, um, and kind of forcing yourself to do those things, like, now that I'm a stay-at-home mom, I'm doing less things that I used to do, like, on my way to work, if my tire needed air, I would just quick stop at the gas station, put air in my tire. But now that I'm staying home, Alex will do those things
yep,
for me more. And now suddenly things that I used to do all the time, I feel like a little apprehensive
yep,
about doing because I don't have to do them as much. And I think that that's just as much a cognitive imbalance, I guess, as in forcing myself to say, "No, you used to do this, like, you can do it,
yeah,
and you don't have to wait for him to do this for you."
yep,
So I think it's the same thing where mom and I talk about, her driving, like, obviously, if you think you shouldn't drive, don't drive.
yeah.
I'm not telling you, go ahead, get behind the wheel,
Yeah,
but, kind of forcing yourself to say, like, mom does not wanna drive downtown.
yep.
She's very nervous about that. Does she have a reason? No, but, kind of forcing yourself to jump out of your fishbowl a little bit sometimes.
Oh, 100%, and it's funny because I when you think about kind of natural progression, when you're little, you're a kid. Think about Dylan, right? Dylan's getting ready to be 2. Uh, every day is learning something new.
Mhm,
Every day he has to be outside of his comfort zone in order for him to continue to grow and to develop. Now, when you're a kid and you have that curiosity, it's kind of exciting. It's
mhm,
that stuff. But as you think about as you progress in life, once you get to like your mid to late 20s and into your 30s, the number of times you have to get outside of your comfort zone goes down dramatically.
yep,
And all of a sudden, that you get into this routine, into this is who I am, kind of living in that fishbowl. And so you never force yourself to be uncomfortable. And it's only when you're uncomfortable that you actually grow and continue to develop both physically, cognitively, you'll go down the list.
mhm.
Um, And I think that that's one area where as people get into, maybe their mid-career and beyond, really finding ways that they can get uncomfortable to force themselves to learn, whether it's an uncomfortable situation, an uncomfortable subject material I'm gonna learn, uh, all of those kinds of things. I think that that goes a long way to keeping it sharp.
And kind of the same thing with you gave us Tim, you gave Alex and I this advice before. Alex and I had meet reached some of the goals that we had set. And you said, okay, what's your next goals? Because if you don't set your next goals, you'll kind of plateau and you aren't striving for anything. And I
Yep.
think it's kind of the same thing. It could even cognitively, if you aren't stretching yourself, you will kind of plateau and stay in your
Well, and
comfort zone.
and I really like to think of it, almost like exercise. When you're younger, you don't have to exercise as much. Your body is in a place where you're just naturally in better shape. But then the more you exercise, you can maintain that and you can see improvements. You can get stronger, you can get more endurance. But the minute you stop, it starts going back the other way,
Yeah,
right?
way harder.
Way harder. And it's really kind of the same thing from a cognitive perspective. It's all around how do I continue to push myself to grow, to think, to engage in things that cause me to stay sharp.
And it could be in a million different ways. Maybe it's joining a small group at church that maybe you haven't done before, and because you were working and you felt like you didn't have the time or you didn't want to make the time for that, and that feels uncomfortable. But now that you're retired, you have the time, so maybe now you do join a small group that kind of forces you out, or join a different group at church. Not it
Yeah.
doesn't be a small
Or
group,
or
but
to your point, find a mentoring program that
yeah.
you can mentor. And a lot of times you think about mentoring with, okay, I'm going to go find a teen, or I'm going to, go to the Y and help volunteer as a mentor there, type of a thing. But really, as I think about professionals that are retiring, part of that mentorship could be I find a young professional that
Hmm.
is in a path or on a path that was similar to mine that I can really give some experience to, and help to mentor them in their career and life as
And it
well.
doesn't have to be a 21-year-old. I mean,
Oh,
wouldn't you love to have
1,000%. Yep.
an 80-year-old mentor right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be even a young.
Oh, no, for sure. Well, what are you saying? I'm not young?
Yeah,
Is that
I
what you just
am.
said?
I
Yeah.
am.
Well, and I think that we've talked a little bit about this, whole how do you live the two comma life and that stuff. And uh, as I think about that, the there are a handful of rules that I've come up with for like how do you get out of your fishbowl and how do you make sure that you're living that life. And one of them is find the right mentor. Find somebody that can push you. I think a lot about when I was first in the business. Dad was that mentor, and my very first year in the business, we had the company we were affiliated with had this sales incentive. Like it was part of your compensation. If you hit certain goals, they would send you an incentive travel. They called it conference. So you had to hit these goals in order to make conference. And I'll never forget, Dad said to me, it's end of September, beginning of October. I was one third of the way I need to where I needed to
Ooh,
be to make conference. And Dad looked at me and just said, if you don't make it this year, you could never say you made it every single year that you were affiliated with this
mm,
company. Game on,
game on,
right?
yep.
But that mentor, he knew how do I flip that switch?
Mhm,
How do I get him to push himself? How do I pull that out of him? And so that mentorship can come in a lot of varieties. Yeah, Dad taught me a ton from a technical side, from a business, all that kind of stuff. But really, sometimes being that mentor to somebody is also using your brain to think about how do I help them get the most out of who they are, uh, and live that purpose that God created them to live.
so do you if, somebody listening to this is interested in becoming somebody's mentor or having that relationship, do you have any advice on, like, how to go about that?
It's really hard. I think it depends on what your background is and what you're looking to do. But there are always associations and groups that get together for those niches. So, for example, if you're in a manufacturing business, and you're like, man, I've been in manufacturing my entire career, maybe mid level as an operations person, or maybe I was the head of the accounting or sale. Like there are industry specific. I'm going to be a part of the manufacturing association locally. If you're just a business person and you're like, I'd like to help another business person, uh, potentially, you know, start looking at their Vistage groups. There are Chamber of Commerce groups. There, lots of ways that you can make those connections. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to be, you could get to know a use business. You get to know a young business owner. Just say, hey, let's grab coffee, right? And then see, oh, all of a sudden we have a relationship and we're having conversations now on a monthly basis or whatever, and really informal, but you're providing some value there, and they're getting value, or they're providing value to you too.
Mhm. And kinda have to find that, like, speed dating
Yeah, how about it? Yeah, I
for
don't think they have, like,
mentors.
Tinder for,
Yeah.
for mentors, and
Maybe
if
they
so, I don't think
should.
I wanna go on there and,
Maybe they should.
yeah,
That sounds like it might be good.
yeah, yeah, how about it? How about it?
It's hard to find, create those organic
It is.
relationships
Well, but
sometimes.
I think that as you look for opportunities, and it's really easy too, if there's a men's or women's group at church, you're gonna make some connections
Mhm.
there. If and so I think the viewpoint on it, sometimes people feel like I have to be part of this, like, program to be a mentor. I have to no. Being a mentor is really developing relationships with people that have like interests that you can exchange experiences with and help to, because you're really helping each other. They may be helping somebody with knowing what is current, and hey, here's the new software we're using or the new technology. Um and the other way around, it might be, yeah, but this is life experience, and here's how I would approach this situation,
Mhm.
type of a thing as well.
So
So cognitive, have we talked about that
cognitive
tons?
health.
And
Yeah.
so let's talk like some nitty-gritty about it a little bit, right? So, so what we find, and I think it's funny that this book will come up again. I think we talked about it briefly last last recording. Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. The whole premise is that when man has a purpose, he can get through almost any circumstance. Uh, Man being generic, obviously, and then that you combine that with this concept around the how do I keep myself uncomfortable? How do I look to have those growth experiences? And I think that when we see people the most successful, the most cognitively plugged in retirement, it's when those things start to come together. And there has to be, unfortunately, there's a bit of a physical aspect to it where you have to get the blood flowing, get out and
Mhm.
walk and be active and what have you. The ones that many times we see uh, that aren't maybe where they want to be, or when they say, I'm going to retire to the lazy boy. And
Well,
uh,
isn't it amazing the how you feel before you go for a walk and after?
oh, it's crazy.
And how many ideas you get on a walk, or
Yeah,
how many things start firing in your brain.
a
It's
hundred
like
percent.
it's always is so crazy to me. I always think I'm gonna listen to a podcast while I'm walking, and then 10 minutes in, I'm like, "I gotta turn this thing off. I'm not listening to this
Yeah,
because
the brain is
the brain is
rolling.
rolling," or the
Mhm.
opposite. I'm like, "I want my brain to be rolling, and
Yep.
I'm paying attention to this podcast." So
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Except if it's the retirement readiness podcast, right? Then
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
then go ahead and leave it on, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. But no, you're right, and it's funny, the when you start thinking about all of that kind of stuff, and you think like, okay, so what is my desired outcome? One of the rules that I would say is uh, consistent small decisions lead to compound results. And so when you think about that, we think about small decisions. Uh, the decision to say every day I'm going to walk around the block.
Mhm.
Small decision. I do it every day. That gets really easy. Next thing you know, I'm walking 3 blocks instead of 1 block, right? And,
Yep.
consistently doing that. Consistently saying, for me, this is real life. I got into the habit where after dinner, I had a cookie. That cookie turned into 2.
Mhm.
That 2 cookies turned into 2 cookies and a Reese peanut butter cup, right? And
Right.
and those consistent decisions. Did I notice anything in the first day, week, month? No. But if I looked at how many calories was in those
Mhm.
items, I was adding, I don't know, approximately 300 to 400 calories a day to my diet. Well, if I do that for 10 days, that's 3,000 to 4,000 calories
Yeah.
that I did not have previously. I do that for a year. Now I wonder where I gained 5 pounds, right?
Right.
And it's like that's just a very small, consistent decision that added to a compound result. And so it works in the same way. If I want to uh, get big results, Don't focus on, man, tomorrow I'm going to the gym, I'm running 5 miles and I'm only
Mhm.
gonna eat broccoli and whatever you think is
And
the
I'm gonna burn out in 2 days because I did too much, and now I'm not gonna do it for a
ever
week,
again.
and
Yeah,
then
exactly. Where if you start kind of, in a different place, BJ Fogg, is an author who uh, has a book out, Small Habits, and it's all about, okay, if I do small things first, that consistently compound over a long period of time leads to huge results.
and I think the key for that is, um, to to still do it even if you're not motivated to do it. Like,
100%.
you have to have, and that's goes back to that purpose of, okay, what's the purpose that I'm doing this? And that purpose drives you when you aren't motivated. And it has to be in your schedule, and it can't falter when you're not motivated to do it, and that's the hard part.
Yeah. Well, and I know for me, and I'm saying this like I do all the things I know I should do. I don't, right? Obviously, but I know in those times when I'm like struggling to go down and walk on the treadmill, and it's like it's wintertime, it's a little cold in the basement.
Mhm.
Who likes to be in a basement that feels like you're in a hole? Like
Right.
just all this stuff. What I tell myself is embrace the suck,
Mhm.
right? You have to embrace that it's not fun, that it's hard, and it's the same thing, I think, when you get outside of your comfort zone. If I'm going to a new experience for the first time and I'm scared and I don't, no, embrace the suck. By
Yeah.
getting through that, I'm going to end up in a much better place.
Or I always tell myself, like, choose your hard.
Sure.
I've
Yep.
heard that before, and that really resonates with me. Is it hard to say no to the cookie? Yes. Is it hard to feel uncomfortable in your pants?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yes.
yeah. Absolutely.
So
Which
which
hard?
hard do you
Yeah.
wanna choose?
Yeah. Sir and I used to even talk about that with our kids. I'll mention another book. Jordan Peterson wrote a book. That is outstanding. If ever anybody's ever looking for it, it's like the 12 Rules of Life, How to Avoid Chaos or something like that. Look up Jordan Peterson, outstanding book. But one of them is, don't raise kids you hate. And it's all about, which hard do I want? When they're 2 and they want to whip a toy at me,
Right.
do I want to, or they say they want their dessert or whatever. Do I choose to lay down the rules? It's difficult, it's a pain in the neck, but when they're 10, they won't be whipping toys at me anymore. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, it's like choose that hard, and same thing with going to church with those little kids. Most of the time for the first 2 to 3 years of their life, you ain't there to get anything out of church because 'cause you're
Mhm.
arm wrestling them, but then all of a sudden at 4, now they know how to sit in church. They know how to, do the things that they should be doing,
Yep.
and so choose your heart, and
Yep. And I think that resonates with me in so many different areas of life, and it's
yeah,
it's so true. That
1,000%.
you can kinda suffer through this choice, or you can suffer through that choice, and one of them is gonna get you to the outcome you want,
Yeah.
and one of them is not.
Yeah. Well,
So
they're both gonna get you to an
to
outcome,
an
right? Yeah.
outcome,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and that's all part of that. The small decisions made consistently in the same direction lead to compound results, and we even think about, like, uh, with your money. So if you wanna get to retirement, have a happy retirement, you don't have to start with $1,000,000. You have to start with, "This paycheck, I'm signing up to put
Mhm.
$50 a paycheck into my 401k. And then when I get my next pay raise that's 3%, I'm gonna increase it by 1.5%, and I'll take
Mhm.
home 1.5%. Like, it's those consistent decisions throughout your life that lead to compound results. And so if we kind of link that back to the cognitive talk for today, my picture is that it's the same thing, whether I'm 25, 65, or 85. If I consistently make those small decisions, get out of my comfort zone, uh, I'm going to be way better long term. And sometimes that's exercise, sometimes it's doing the puzzle that we cannot say, Sudoku or Soduka.
Sudoku. Well, I guess that kind of wraps us up. Thanks for landing the plane. You always seem to land the plane for us and tie everything back together because, as we previously stated, I have mom brain and can't do that. So,
And we also previously stated that, when I'm in the middle of thinking or we're saying the Lord's Prayer, squirrel,
yeah,
right?
I know.
And so as we chase those squirrels throughout our conversation, it's sometimes good if we can bring it
Bring it all
back.
back together.
Yeah,
So, thanks for joining. Oh, wait. No, mailbag. We don't have a question today, but
correct.
we are asking you to submit your questions. So you can email us your questions, comment on Facebook or comment on YouTube, any questions that you want to submit for future episodes. And maybe one day we'll get Ruby to introduce the mailbag to
So
us.
Katie, what is mailbag? When you say send in your questions,
Yeah,
what
so mailbag can be any topic that you want. Tim, if you want to not cover finance, Tim also has some great book recommendations or great food recommendations.
yes,
But seriously, it can be any topic that you feel that Tim or I could answer a question,
1,000%. Well, and
maybe.
I think that really kind of opens up some of that mailbag too, because I think that there are probably questions around how do you balance being a professional woman and a mom,
Hmm.
and how does that transition look when you're transitioning? So it's not just a retirement. I'm going from working full time to now I'm retired. And there's lots of reasons that people go from working full time to not
To
working
not.
full time.
Hmm.
Um, and you've got a unique perspective on
Or
that.
even just women in finance. I feel like that's a kind of an uncharted
Yeah.
topic
Absolutely, absolutely.
also.
So mailbag is more than just, should I convert to a Roth IRA or should
Yeah.
I, those types of things. We're really open to anything we want to discuss, right?
Yeah. So, like I said, email or comment any questions, or give Erin a call. I'm sure she'd love to talk to you if you wanted to kind of talk to somebody with your question. Um, and then I think
I think we're a wrap.
that's really it. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, I know we have an ebook that we've put out. You can find it on our website. I think it's about
Social
Social
Security and
Security, right?
yep,
Maximizing your
maximize your Social Security.
Social Security benefit in
And as an
retirement.
aside there, everybody should probably know too that we try to drop a new ebook on a pretty regular basis. Usually every couple of months, we're going to have a new ebook that's available on a topic that really warrants digging into a little bit further that maybe we can't cover in just a blog post or
And
something
or
like that.
isn't so
So
interesting to listen to, but maybe on your own time you
yeah,
wanted to kind
to
of read a
pick up
little
some
bit
more.
about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so an ebook is just a fancy way to say like
Go to our
reading
website.
material,
Yeah,
like
like go to our website and click on the link. It'll bring it up in like a PDF format. If you're the type like me who likes to have more tactile type of stuff, unfortunately you have to print it, but you print it from there. You want to read it on paper, make notes, you can. Otherwise, you can just read it right on the screen.
or if you really want it printed, I'm sure if you call, we could print it and have it for you at your next available at your next appointment.
Yep, for sure.
So thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Retirement Readiness Podcast, and we will see you soon. Be well.
Be well.